Our featured story is Binance. We continue to cover Binance. Binance, everyone is alleging, is going to be that next leg down in the bear market. Going to take us to that capitulation, like Richard Hart talks about, that 11K in prey. We got an article from Dirty Bubble Media. You guys should be following Dirty Bubble Media. He was really ahead of the curve when it came to FTX. I remember him talking about it before the news were talking about it. And now he's talking about Binance US and Binance being a fake exchange. Is Binance US a fake exchange? Billions in customer funds transferred directly from Binance US to offshore Binance exchange. Is this a ploy to trick regulators? So I'm a little bit going to skim this because it's very long. But he said in the final days of the FTX collapse, onlookers wondered about the solvency of FTX's US-based exchange, FTX.US. FTX US was ostensibly held at arm's length from the parent exchange. FTX leadership insisted that customers of the FTX US division would be safe, even if the parent company went under. However, when the end came for FTX, FTX US met the same fate, freezing customer withdrawals and entering Chapter 11 with the rest of FTX Alameda Network. And that's very interesting because I remember during the Aaron Ross Sorkin interview with Sam Bankman-Fried, he said that FTX US was completely solvent, completely whole, and could withdraw and could, meet customers' withdrawal immediately, he said at the time, if need be. And he was just waiting for it to happen. And it still hasn't happened. So that just goes to show you that Sam Bankman-Fried has never been truthful. He wasn't truthful then, and he's not truthful now. And FTX US has suffered the same Chapter 11 fate as regular FTX. So despite being US regulated and theoretically walled off from the FTX US was in reality a little more than an extension of its offshore owners. One might think that perhaps FTX US was really just a ploy to trick US regulators into focusing on the smaller American company instead of turning attention to the incoming financial hurricane in the Bahamas. It turned out that FTX was not the only offshore exchange to create a US-based and regulated entity. Binance, the world's largest exchange, created Binance.US in early 2019 in response to regulatory pressure. Binance US was described as a separate entity from Binance that was merely licensing the name and certain features from the main company. Binance.US, based in Palo Alto, is licensed as a money service business in the United States. Note that it is not difficult to obtain these licenses, as we've previously shown in our expose of a network of fake crypto exchanges based in Colorado. It's not that difficult to get these licenses. Why can't Richard Hart or a Hexagon get a crypto on-ramp with a money changer's license? I'm sure it might not be difficult for some people, that really have connections, but for your average person, it's probably quite difficult to navigate the regulatory waters. But so he said, however, shortly after the creation of Binance US, Forbes magazine published a report claiming that they had received a leaked document referred to as the Tai Chi document. According to this document, the Binance US exchange was a ploy to trick US regulators into focusing on the compliant local exchange, while the parent exchange went free to do its own business. Binance responded by suing Forbes for defamation, only to drop the lawsuit a few months later. In February of this year, Binance tried a different tack. They invested $200 million in Forbes' parent company. If you can't beat them, join them. So they're saying that Binance tried to sue for defamation, and instead they just bought out a significant equity stake in Forbes. However, this early reporting by Forbes was corroborated by a much more detailed report by Reuters in October 2022, with more sources and documents at their disposal. Reuters found essentially that Forbes' piece 3 years earlier suggested that Binance US was designed to trick regulators and the US customers. It shows that in 2018, Zhao approved a plan by lieutenants to insulate Binance from scrutiny by U.S. authorities by setting up a new American exchange. The new exchange would draw regulators' attention away from the main platform by serving as a regulatory inquiry clearinghouse. According to the proposal, executives went on to set the plan in motion. Company messages show. In public, Zhao said the new U.S. exchange called Binance US was a fully independent entity. In reality, Zhao controlled Binance US, directing its management from abroad, according to regulatory filings from 2020. Company messages and interviews with former team members and advisor, and a message to Binance's executive described the U.S. exchange as a de facto subsidiary. He talked about there was this two CEOs. There was Catherine Cawley. She left shortly after. And then there was Brian Brooks, who I believe left as well. Brian Brooks lasted for 4 months. saying that ultimately CZ was controlling it. And then he talked about how Binance US was intermingling funds with regular Binance. I have to read everything to you, but is that to say that Binance wasn't doing some maybe things that were not they weren't supposed to be doing? That's very possible. Does that mean that Binance is in fact insolvent and not backed one to one? I wouldn't jump to that, and we'll see why in a second. We'll just read the conclusion. We believe that these simple analysis demonstrate that Binance US customer funds are being sent to Binance and commingled with Binance customer assets. Our data also suggests that Binance US is using Binance to perform customer trades while pretending to be an independent entity. In reality, Binance US appears to be a little more than a facade to obfuscate the fact that an unregulated offshore crypto business currently under investigation for money laundering and sanction violations is doing business in the United States despite being banned from the country. These findings neatly dovetail with the previous reports by Forbes and Reuters indicating Binance US was a clever trick designed to fool regulators and customers. However, with the collapse of FTX, everyone is taking a closer look at the crypto industry. We doubt that Binance's regulatory tai chi will allow them to evade the long arm of the law for much longer. So, first of all, the money laundering and sanctions violations, that's old news. I think people are bringing it up because, now's an easy time to attack Binance. Price of everything's down, and they're facing regulatory scrutiny, to say the least. So they're bringing back something that's been around, in fact, since 2018, and people knew about it throughout this entire bull market and weren't saying anything. I'm just saying. And I'm not saying this article may be very much onto something. They certainly bring on-chain evidence that Binance is, commingling funds. Is that to say they're not backed one-to-one? I don't know if that's to say that. And I'm going to show you a couple of tweets to show maybe a lot of the stuff that people are saying about Binance is in fact not true. Starting with Ben Armstrong, BitBoy Crypto. Are you following BitBoy Crypto? He's been very good to Richard Hart. He's got 1 million followers. He said, let me break down what we are seeing with the FUD surrounding CZ and Binance. In this, you're watching two camps pelting Binance with rumors, innuendos, and criticism, and yet there has not yet been one shred of actual evidence of insolvency or criminality. Here are the two groups. He's saying people who hate Binance and exchanges in general. Many of these are Bitcoin maximalists like Corey Klippstein. Some are not maximalists, but just detest third-party exchanges. These people are genuine in their criticism. So then he says propaganda. So this, I don't know if it's that true. He's saying propaganda arms of FTX out in Alameda. People laughed at me before when I told you about the fake news dissemination until the Block CEO was caught receiving $27 million from Alameda. Page shills like Jim Cramer and Kevin O'Leary, and the bot armies are out in full force. Well, it is interesting because Kevin O'Leary is saying that Binance really took down FTX and saying that maybe he's saying some things about Binance, and we all know that he's been paid $15 million to be a Binance spokesperson. So there is something to it. I don't know if everything he's saying is true with regard to that, but so he says the second group is riling the first group up and supercharging their FUD campaign. The Alameda group is desperately trying to paint CZ as a bad guy and to blame Binance for FTX. I don't know. I need to see evidence that Alameda and FTX are actually behind this whole FUD campaign of Binance. There are certainly things that I don't like about this FUD campaign against Binance. And I'm not trying to say that Binance is completely clean or they're solvent and back one-to-one, but there are certainly things I don't like about it. But that's not to say that it's being done by Sam Bankman-Fried and Alameda. I don't know if that's true. Feel free to criticize Binance. Please tell people to withdraw all non-trading funds from every exchange. This is a good message, but do not absolve FTX from their responsibility. Anyone who does this paid propaganda, I don't know if that's true, but yeah, I don't know if that's true, but okay. Then he says, this guy, Ben at K Crypto Invest says, Binance has just dealt with a $10 billion withdrawal stress test and is still operating. This amount would have put every single exchange out of business other than Binance that is currently providing a proof of reserves. Maybe it's time to give CZ a bit of a break. That's true. They were able to they were all able to handle $10 billion worth of withdrawals within a very short period of time. FTX couldn't even handle a fraction of that. So that's a very good sign. I'm saying that is a very good sign. I'm not saying that everything that CZ does is right. I'm not saying they're completely regulatory compliant and have the most integrity, but it does seem like they're able to handle large withdrawals within a short period of time, which is definitely a good sign of solvency. And they're open to having an audit. Then you have Mike Alfred, who obviously we don't like for many reasons, but he does provide some good news in the crypto markets, I guess. He says BNB Pumping as Binance CEO CZ announces a new CFO, independent board, home office location, and tier one auditor vows to complete full audit of company financials and internal controls. Yes. And that's like another thing is that people were trying to use another thing I didn't like about what's it called about the whole CZ thing where people were saying that they're really not audited, they're not backed one to one, and they use this proof that Mazars took down their audit from their website. And it turns out they were taking down every audit because it turns out that perhaps they didn't know as much as they should have about how to audit a crypto fund, etc. So they just said, we don't want to put our name behind it because maybe we didn't do as good of a job and we weren't as thorough as we should have been, seemingly. And that's not on Binance, that's on Mazars. So I don't like that people are using that. It wasn't specifically to Binance, it was just Mazars in general. And now Binance is welcoming more audits. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that Binance is for sure solvent and for sure back one to one and everything's going to be fine, but the FUD that's going around is very sus. It's often a nothing burger, like Mazars pulling down the audit, and like CZ saying our lawyers are going to deal with it because he was talking about the clawback. So I'm saying it's very often the things that people are saying that should be that should be like maybe damning evidence against Binance are really not what they seem to be. So I'm not so convinced that Binance is going to go down. Maybe it does. Maybe that is the next leg down in the bull market. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I'm not so convinced it will be, but things happen very, very quickly. I'll say that. Things happen very, very quickly and very unexpectedly here. So who knows? Who knows? That would be very interesting. But also, FTX has only been around for one bull market, one cycle. Binance has been around for two. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. We got 35 watching. If you're enjoying, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please follow me on Twitter at Furu Finance. And now, is there anything else that we need to cover? No, that's it for in terms of the news. We'll just check out the chat. If you're enjoying, feel free to leave a super chat. Feel free to sign up for the Furu Finance newsletter. And obviously, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter. Follow me on TikTok. Richard Hart said we need to expand to TikTok. I'm on TikTok at Furu Finance. And moving on.